Many people don't know about this housing scam in Korea. All the Korean apartment hunting videos you see on YouTube are a lie. In Korea, if you want to get a decent place, you need to put down a thick security deposit. The higher the deposit, the nicer the place is. And getting a loan as a foreigner is harder than existing in America. People here have literally unalived themselves because they've been scammed out of $100,000 to $200,000 in housing deposits. Now obviously, if you're dating someone, you can pull your money together. And usually in these apartment hunting vlogs, one person in the relationship is Korean, so it's a hell of a lot easier for them to get loans, or sometimes their parents pitch in. That's why most of the time when you see these couples looking for places, the options they have are just way nicer. And until then, you're stuck with the rest of us bottom feeders living in apartments the size of the cockroaches you'll probably find there.
Associated with that.
I lived in Korea for 2 years, so I've had some time to save up some money. So some of the places I show you in this video will probably be a little bit nicer than the options you might have if you're a newbie here. My absolute musts: basement rooms are cheaper but usually have mold problems and you won't even get a butt crack of sunlight. Also, last year during monsoon season, people who lived in basement level apartments died because their houses got flooded and they couldn't escape in time. So I wasn't gonna risk that. I have small fridge trauma. And we're just gonna leave it at that.
What can I say?
A nice kitchen slash sink. Cause some of these kitchen countertops can't even fit Bella Hadid. Not a crusty ass bathroom that was built in the 50s. The thing about apartments in Korea is everything usually looks completely fine. But who in the Ronald McDonald thought it would be a good idea to put a red toilet seat in the bathroom? Sorry, I'm just very passionate about this. Other places, you sit down to take a shit and your balls are literally right to the wall in front of you. A big window facing the sun with somewhat Maldenish vibes for the content and to help with seasonal depression. Close, but not too close to work. Now I ain't going to the convenience store at 3 AM looking like a hungover Lord Farquaad just to run into a coworker. Came a little bit early because I wanted to scout out the area. I feel like it is super important to actually like the surroundings, especially as someone who walks around a lot. Also, ideally somewhere with some cute cafes nearby. They couldn't show me the actual listing, but they assured me that it looked exactly the same, minus the divider in the living room. I loved how relatively new everything looked, but I was still skeptical about not being able to see the actual unit, because you never know. It was in an inconvenient area with nothing around, which is a pretty huge turnoff for me. Another day, another apartment viewing. Today I'm wearing sunglasses too because I'm trying to channel very important person CEO vibes. Hopefully that will score me some brownie points with the realtors. The realtor mentioned that they did have staff come in to clean the apartment once a month, which is something I've never heard of before. There was lots of space, furniture, and appliances that were included, which would save me a lot of money. But that also didn't give me the freedom to spruce up the place the way I wanted. I also have to keep in mind that the place was pretty expensive. And while this place did have a lot of amenities, it was kind of hard to justify paying that price. Now this place wasn't available for another 1 to 2 months because clearly, construction. But being the first one to live in a unit is good because you know everything's working and clean. I wish I could find the pictures they showed online, but the SketchUp was giving elegant minimalistic vibes, so I was shook when they actually showed me the unit. But there was a balcony area that looked pretty decent. It's just really hard because if I sign before I see the finished product, I might end up getting something that I didn't expect. And the move-in date was pretty late for me. You can't see that well in the video, but there was actually an extra nook space that I could probably use for storage or even a bed. It also had the tallest windows I've seen in any apartment I've visited here. Many people don't know about this housing scam in Korea. Buildings need to be registered under a certain type, and businesses usually get taxed less than housing buildings. So some apartments like to register their whole building as a business, and they usually have some sort of storefront on the first floor just to look less sus. For the foreign girlies out there, forget about going off the grid. The government gals basically have an Apple AirTag on you at all times. So you gotta report your housing sitch whenever you move. But obviously, you can't live in a business building. You can't even be legally homeless here. Like, just let me live in the middle of the woods in peace.
No.
So if you want to live in one of these buildings, you need to put someone else's addy on your official records. If that person moves from that address, you need to find a new one to put. Native Koreans usually just put their parents' address so they don't have to worry about, well, getting deported. But if you get caught as a foreigner, there's a chance you'll get fined and even kicked out back to the country that you tried to run away from. Most likely America, because there's a reason why most of us ran away from there. So always make sure a property says 전입신고 가능 before you tour or sign for it. I literally signed a first draft of the housing contract for this place, but thank God the besties hooked me up with this info before I got my ass sent back to America, the land of the free. Today I'm conquering my greatest fear and I'm going to walk into a 부동산 and try to find a place. This one realtor's office started a long saga of touring. We were literally going place to place from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. What's funny is that this realtor actually recruited the help of another office and said that this old lady was the head honcho of this area because she's been working here for years. Y'all, this ajumma was legit because she was roasting all the places she was showing me herself instead of trying to gaslight me into thinking that they were good. I did run into some interesting places whose prices I don't remember at all. This place just seemed like one giant rectangle. Not the worst, but I could just imagine myself being sad here. Also, it was on the 4th floor and they don't have an elevator. And I swear the steps were twice the size of normal steps. She also showed me a couple older looking places that I just didn't vibe with and honestly could have found cheaper dupes for the same quality. Now, the next day started off pretty strong. I really liked how the current tenant spruced up the place. It wasn't just one big room but had a separate bedroom, and I think the layout of the apartment was really efficient for how big it actually was, and the style of the walls and the flooring was simple yet modern. The rest of the stay I spent touring a few other places that actually weren't that bad. One of the options had multiple rooms, but the energy was kinda off. But this place with the special dress shirt / coat machine closet thing was real fancy. Now I shit you not, up until the end of the stay, I probably walked into at least 20 to 30 realtor offices and actually toured about 20 different listings. I was tired, y'all, but there was one that was on my mind. These are tips that most people don't talk about. We don't gatekeep here. Well, not all the time. Don't assume that all the basics are included, especially for things like Wi-Fi, cable, and even refrigerators. When you're viewing apartments, always double check and ask to make sure if something is included when you move in. But if something's left in the apartment when you move in and it's not included in the contract, that means it's yours to keep and even take with you when you move out. Rule of thumb, if it's not in the contract, it's not included. Paper trail, baby! Building off of that, while certain places may look cheaper, it may still not be worth it if certain things aren't included. Let's say we're looking at these two places where one looks more expensive but includes more amenities. Now we gotta assume that internet and cable is anywhere between 40 to 50K a month. Now I ain't a mather, but even I can tell that the first option is cheaper in the long run. So be careful not just to only compare the general numbers. Next thing you gotta consider is environment. Would you enjoy taking a quaint little stroll around your neighborhood? Are there things like gyms, convenience stores, and restaurants nearby? You might think you'd be willing to take a hot girl walk for these things, but let's be honest, when you're lower or middle class, you're not gonna have the time or the energy to go the extra mile. Is it next to a big road or a street full of late night pubs? Sometimes you just need your peace and quiet. Just other random things to test for. Sink and shower water pressure. Personally, I don't care about the water pressure, but I know some people are very particular about it. Bring your own charger and make sure all of the outlets work. Honestly, I didn't really do this, but it's nice to check. Pretend like you're investigating a murder scene. Now, I'm not saying to completely invade the personal privacy of the current tenant, but if you notice something like bug spray cans, please take that as a red flag. Let's just say Things didn't end well in my first apartment. What sucks is that if you're a foreigner, you're probably on a time crunch to find a place before you start work and things get busy. And there are so many things about apartment hunting that just sucks the life out of you. This usually causes people to settle for less just to get things out of the way. But just tell your intrusive thoughts to
shut the hell up, bitch.
And keep searching to the last minute until you find a place that really speaks to your gut. At the end of the day, you gotta look at it like that one triangle. And unless you're Elon Musk's long-lost child, but if you are, please tell him to use his money to save the world instead of trying to live in space. You can only pick 2 out of the 3.